Today, we're going to talk about something pretty dramatic, the story of clinical trials in India. It's this incredible story. You've got massive ambition, then this shocking crisis, and then this slow, careful rebuilding of trust. And to really get it, you have to understand the scale we're talking about. It's kind of mind-boggling.
Okay, so let's start with this number, 1.21 billion. That was India's population back in 2011. Just think about that for a second. When you have that many people, and a lot of them are facing serious health issues, you need medical research. You need new treatments. It's not just a nice to have, it's absolutely critical.
And this data, wow, it really shows you what they were up against. I mean, look at this. Cardiovascular disease, okay, that's the #1 killer for most people. No big surprise there. But then you look at the younger group, ages 15 to 29, and the top cause of death is suicide. That's a whole different kind of health crisis. It just paints this really stark picture of how diverse and how urgent the need was for all kinds of new treatments. So this is where you get to the heart of the problem, right? It's this huge dilemma. On one side, you have all this promise, a country that desperately needs medical breakthroughs. But on the other side, the peril. You have a huge part of the population that's vulnerable because of poverty, because of low literacy, and that vulnerability opens the door to exploitation. It's like walking a tightrope, and the stakes couldn't be higher.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're going back to the time before 2013. This was when India was just exploding onto the scene as a go-to place for clinical trials. It was the boom time for sure.
So what kicked off this boom? Well, it was really two big things. First, in 2005, India gets on board with international patent rules. That basically throws the doors wide open for big pharma companies from all over the world. Then, a year later, the Medical Research Council there updates its ethics rules. Put those two together, and bam! Suddenly, global trials are just flooding into the country like never before. But, this whole boom was built on a foundation that, well, it was a little shaky. And this quote really tells the story. It's from a researcher talking about a trial back in the 80s. I mean, listen to this. Drugs just left out in the open, it was obvious who was getting what, no real consent, no ethics committee, and then they just used the leftover pills on other patients. It just goes to show you that even before the big boom, the system lacked a certain rigor. And that makes you think, right? If that's what was happening in a major teaching hospital, what on earth was going on everywhere else, in places with even less supervision? It's a scary question. And, well, the answer was coming, and it was going to be dramatic. Okay, time for Act 2, the fall. Because between 2013 and 2016, that booming industry didn't just slow down, it came to a sudden grinding halt. This was the public reckoning. So what happened? Well, stories started to come out. Allegations of people in these trials being exploited. First, you'd see them in medical journals. Then they hit the mainstream news. And eventually, it got so big that lawsuits were filed, pushing the whole mess all the way to India's Supreme Court. And when the Supreme Court stepped in, they did not mess around. Their message was crystal clear. Stop. Stop all the trials. You need to create a system that is foolproof, their word, to protect people. I mean, think about that. The entire industry just frozen overnight. And you can see the impact right here. It was instant and it was massive. All these new super strict rules made running trials way slower, way more expensive, and the result? A mass exodus. The number of new trials just plummeted. The global sponsors packed up and left. The boom had officially gone bust. But that's not where the story ends. Nope. Starting around 2017, a new chapter begins, the rebuild. This was all about looking at what went wrong and trying to build something better, something more balanced and ethical from the ground up. So what did this rebuild actually look like? Well, it was a few key things. First, they made ethics training mandatory for everyone running a trial. Good clinical practice, GCP, became the standard. Then they beefed up the local ethics committees to make sure there was real oversight. And this is huge. They clarified the rules for compensating people if they got hurt during a trial. And finally, they started trying to educate the public about why ethical trials are so important in the first place. When you look at this whole story, the rise, the fall, the rebuild, it's such a powerful lesson. And not just for India, really. This applies to any country doing this kind of high-stakes medical research. Because at the end of the day, what's the goal here? It's to find that perfect balance, right? A win-win. A situation where patients are safe and respected, but also where science can keep moving forward to help the millions of people who need it. It's about serving both humanity and progress.
And that really leaves us with a big lingering question, doesn't it? India's journey is like a massive case study for one of the toughest challenges in medicine. How do you balance that desperate, urgent need for new cures with the absolute non negotiable duty to protect your most vulnerable citizens? It's a question every